Hey everybody, welcome back to round 31 of Inside the Clinch. Eric here alongside Johnny, bringing you guys the latest in MMA. This week we don't have an upcoming fight to preview for you guys, but we're going to talk about the results of Volkov versus Gane, and then we have a bunch of different news topics we're going to share with you guys to let you know the latest buzz in the community. So John, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good. I actually came back from Miami yesterday. You know that because you picked me up from the airport. But yeah, no complaints. Besides the weather in Miami, which was freaking horrible, it was raining all week. Did have a few days with the sun, but I come back to New York and there's like a heat wave going on over here. So I can't catch a break.
Yeah, it's been in the 90s for the past week or so. It's probably going to be like that for the next few days. But hey, I'll take that over the winter cold any day.
You would take this heat over the winter cold?
Yeah, man, I hate the winter. I don't know why I hate the winter. I love the warmth. I'd rather be in warmth than in cold. Just personal preference.
I feel that, but this heat is just unbearable. Honestly, it's just we just got the notification today, basically saying that we can't use any energy, no electricity. Well, to limit our energy in terms of like AC, microwaves and stuff like that, because of the heat waves. So
Yeah,
it's a it,
99.9% of the population will not adhere to that, so there's going to be probably no change.
it's a big deal, and also the ACs in my house are kind of acting up. So maybe that's why I'm a little bit cranky right now. But I don't know. I hope this heat wave goes away.
Hoping so, man. But let's get right into our MMA topics. So to start off this podcast, we're going to talk about the results of Ciryl Gane versus Alexander Volkov, which ended in a unanimous decision win for Ciryl Gane, 50-45, 50-45, and 50-46. What'd you think of the fight, John?
I thought it was a pretty good fight. It was back and forth, but if you look at the fight, you could see who the better fighter in this situation was, and that's Ciryl Gane. I feel like there was a first round was very close, but after that, I'll give every single round to Ciryl Gane. Volkov did have his moments with striking. He did land a bunch of leg kicks and a lot of body shots as well. But if you look at the fight altogether, I feel like Ciryl Gane put on a clinic, and he shows us why he's one of the best heavyweights in the world.
Yeah, those body punches, I was very impressed by. He was working the body really, really well. So we've seen some more crazy stuff come out of Ciryl Gane. Again, more flying knees and landing them, and just the way he jumps up in the air for someone his size is just phenomenal. Like I mentioned, the body work was great, and I'm surprised that both these heavyweights went the distance and pretty much didn't slow down at all. Usually, heavyweights gas out like halfway through the second round, and it's just a drag after that. But in this fight, we saw both guys going at it in the fifth, and I'm actually surprised that it didn't end in a knockout at the pace they were going.
Yeah, you mentioned that knee. I thought that knee was gonna end the fight, but that says a lot about Volkov's chin, man. Like not only his chin, but the stamina too. I feel like if this fight was against Francis Ngannou, I feel like Francis would win because of the power, and we're gonna get into Francis in a little bit. But I feel like Francis is not gonna be like that in the fifth round. If the fight were to go to the fifth round, I feel like Francis is not wouldn't be as fresh as either fighter was. So that's a big deal that a lot of people aren't talking about.
Yeah, but aside from Stipe, no man has ever stood with Francis long enough to go even past the first, I think. So,
Yeah, but on the
the guy's just a
contrary,
legend.
On the contrary, my friend, no man's named Ciryl Gane faced Francis Ngannou yet, so we don't know.
This is true, man. This is true.
Look, Ciryl Gane, he's very well versed. As we saw, he's a great striker. He fought somebody with that 6'7", and he was able to outstrike them. He's well versed on the ground. He has some submission wins as well. He's an all around very good fighter, and I'm not saying that he could be Francis Ngannou, but I feel like that's his biggest threat at this moment.
One thing I want to mention, I noticed that in Volkov's in this past fight with Ciryl Gane and the fight before, dude. Now that he's bulked up a little bit and gained some weight, his power is fucking there, man. I mean, you can see how much more power Volkov has than even the fight with Derick Lewis. I mean, that's a completely different Volkov, and I'm actually surprised at how much power he's developing so late in his career. It's very impressive to see.
Yeah, yeah. So after the fight with Curtis Blades, Volkov gained some weight, and the commentators were saying that basically they thought that he did that in order to basically gain some strength. But he did stuff 4 takedowns attempted by Ciryl Gane, so maybe that did play a factor in his takedown defense and his overall strength.
I don't know if the weight was put on intentionally for the power, just because it doesn't look like too much muscle. I would say not necessarily calling him fat, but he doesn't look like
He just
a
looks
lean
big.
weight. Yeah, he just looks bigger. But I think the power probably just came as a result of him gaining weight, and I'm very glad and surprised that to see those outcomes from him.
Well, guess what? The power was not enough to defeat Ciryl Gane. So honestly, I was impressed by Volkov, but I was a lot more impressed by Ciryl Gane. The dude's a stud, and I can't wait to see what he does in his UFC career. He's currently undefeated. I believe one of the only heavyweights that's undefeated that's up there in rankings. So I'm excited to see what he could do.
Yeah, so actually some footage came out earlier this week. I don't know if you saw, and it was an older video, so maybe it was a little bit more than a few weeks ago, but it was footage of Ciryl Gane and Francis Ngannou sparring together at a gym a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
Um, they were doing some light sparring, but we did get to see how someone like Francis and Ciryl Gane were moving in the ring together. They both used to train in the same gym in France. Since then, Francis has moved on to another gym. Ciryl Gane is still there. He's still training with the same team. But we got a small glimpse of what a match would look like between the two of them.
I haven't really seen the video. So can you? What was it like? So were they grappling? Were they striking? What were they
No,
doing?
it was striking, and I mean very light striking. You know what I mean? They weren't
Mhm.
trying to take each other's heads off, but Ciryl Gane was touching the body of Francis Ngannou, honestly, more than I would have expected him to. And obviously Francis Ngannou isn't going for a knockout or anything in the sparring room,
Yeah.
but the activity, the output, there was more output out of Ciryl Gane. I felt like in that it was a short clip, but in that clip I saw more output from Ciryl Gane than I did from Francis.
Yeah, practice. I feel like practice is practice, and they
Yeah.
were just helping. They were just helping one another get better in that particular instance. But I feel like, I mean, there's such a big difference in strength and like weight. I feel like Ciryl Gane came in at 245. Francis cuts to 260. So it's a big discrepancy in weight. But I feel like if Gane is able to like evade the punches and get this fight to later rounds, I feel like he could be successful.
Yeah, I mean, the takedown is, I think, the ultimate hole in Francis's game right now. He struggles to get up once he is taken down. I think Francis may have been the only one to actually take him down, but Francis is a striker. He's a boxer, not even a kickboxer. You know what I mean? So he doesn't have all the tools of a full mixed martial artist, but the tools he does have, I mean, they're devastating. His two hands are just dynamites. You know what I mean? He touches you and your lights go out. So
Honestly,
if
yeah.
Gon
I'm
can get
sorry.
that
I'm sorry.
takedown,
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we don't know what type of skill Francis has developed because the fights have been just so short. So maybe he's nice with the jiu-jitsu now somehow, he practices that stuff.
yeah, I mean, he is training seriously. We see it all the time. Maybe he did fix up those holes. We haven't seen anyone try to take him down since Stipe. I don't know, man. I think, look, if Gon can get the takedown, I think that'll absolutely be necessary for him to get the win. If he does not get those takedowns, I don't think there's any chance for Ciryl Gane to win. But Francis Ngannou, man, he's just on a different level. I think he beats Gane.
But who knows if we're ever going to see the fight with Ciryl Gane and Francis Ngannou. Did you hear what's going on with your boy Dana White and Francis Ngannou's management?
Yeah, Dana White and Francis's management team are going at it. They've announced an interim heavyweight title fight, which is thrown all of us off guard. I mean, we're just shocked that it's been announced and it happened so fast. So Francis Ngannou just won the belt 3 months ago, and there's already an interim heavyweight title fight announced between Derick Lewis and Ciryl Gane on August 7th. What the hell, man? I mean, Francis isn't injured. He's not, sick. He's not suspended. Why is there an interim title for a champ that just won his belt? In the past, we've seen heavyweights, between DC and Stipe for 2 years. There was only two title fights. Like, it's insane that they would do this to Francis after 3 months of him winning.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like after reading a lot on this, I feel like Dana White just has some type of benefit in making the fight with Ciryl Gane and Derek Lewis as opposed to Ciryl Gane and Francis Ngannou. There's something that we don't know about, and that's the motive behind all of this. Dana White is not just not making this Francis Ngannou and Ciryl Gane fight because that's a bigger fight. Maybe there's something said by Francis Ngannou's team that he didn't like, or maybe it's the date, but there's something, and it's Dana White's fault. I'm not gonna blame Markel Martin, the great manager of Francis Ngannou. I don't think he did anything wrong. And from his statements, it looks like he's in the right, and Dana's the asshole as usual. He's businessmen do business things. So and that's what Dana White is doing.
Yeah, Dana White tried to call out Francis's manager on Twitter. And then Francis's manager, tweets back saying, "Look, let's put out all the messages, let's put all the conversations and everything out in public, and let the public decide who's in the right and who's in the wrong." I mean, look, Dana does have a reputation for being an asshole behind the scenes. I did read in some other places though that obviously Dana White is just a face. This is not him negotiating. This is apparently Hunter Campbell. And from what I heard, there has been some friction with him and Francis's team. I'm not sure exactly why, but it's very frustrating. Francis is just one of the most dominating fighters in that octagon. And like to do this to him, I feel like after it was so hard for him to get that belt in the first place, it's fucked up, man.
Yeah, Francis Ngannou was waiting for a very long time, and he showed his dissatisfaction with the UFC for not giving him a fight for the longest time while he's at his prime. So I don't really know what the deal is with Francis Ngannou and Dana White, but it's sad to see because I'd like to see Francis Ngannou face the best people, like a John Jones, like a Ciryl Gane. But I don't know. I really don't know what's behind Dana White's motive. Dana White is just being Dana White at the end of the day.
Yeah, man. Look, Dana White is Dana White, like you said. But at the end of the day, he gets the job done. I respect him as a businessman, but he can be an asshole behind the scenes. This is not the first time we're hearing about something like this from him. Even with his negotiations with Connor's team, someone that we know he loves very much. We've seen this stuff spill out into Twitter, into the public. So I don't know. It's not the first time we've seen it.
Yeah, this is actually a great transition into what we were going to discuss, and that's Paige Vanzant and Cris Cyborg's statement, basically saying that leaving the UFC was one of the best decisions of their life, and coincidentally, they did it around the same time. So in terms of Paige Vanzant, she said that she's making a lot more money. She was saying that she was making a lot more money via Instagram, and now she moved over to PFL, and she has her own stuff going on right now with her. It's not an OnlyFans, but she has her own website where she basically uploads her pictures, which is making her a lot of money.
Paige Vanzant.
Yeah, it's something like that. And with Cris Cyborg, she left the UFC. She didn't leave on a losing streak. She won her last fight. She came to Bellator, has won 3 fights in Bellator, and she has something now that she's been wanting for a very long time, and that's respect. And she feels like her and Scott Coker are a team, and that's something that she was not able to form with Dana White with all the years that she's been with him. So, a lot of fighters are dissatisfied with Dana White, but for some fighters, leaving the UFC is not an option. So I don't know. Dana White, can't really judge him. Don't really know the entire story, but it's kind of sad to see that we don't get some of the fights that many fans want.
Yeah, the more people that leave the UFC, the more we hear how much freedom they're getting. I feel like freedom is a big one, and money is a big thing that they complain about. Which in my opinion, that's probably the 2 biggest things that a contract should be based on, aside from the actual fighting. But look, both ladies, big stars, big names. Like you said, Cyborg finally got the respect that she was looking for. We hear this all the time, even with people that are currently on the roster, how they feel disrespected. And, this is just a common theme from the UFC brass to the fighters. As soon as those fighters leave, go to organizations like Bellator or PFL, like, they have good things to say about their new home. And I feel like it's just a difference in management.
Yeah, I feel like Dana White, he takes care of the people that he wants to take care of, and everybody else he just doesn't really give a shit about. And that's what really has brought all this success to him, I feel like, in a way. But at the end of the day, I feel like fighters do deserve a lot more respect for what they do, and I feel like they do. And this is something that you and I have talked about in the past. But I feel like the fighters do deserve to get paid a lot more than they do, and especially more than any of these other organizations after the UFC. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
but
know. They're
look,
the best organizations in the world, and they're paying approximately the same as other organizations, or even less in some instances. So I feel like that's wrong.
Yeah, but you don't necessarily know how each organization structures their finances. For example, the UFC can have show and win money, whereas an organization like PFL might have only win money and the money that they get from their shorts. So, for example, like the UFC doesn't have sponsorships, whereas PFL does. So they have different structures of how the fighters get paid. And the UFC is very limiting in that you can't represent your own brand or other brands to bring extra sources of income, which is a big complaint from a lot of people. And just aside from that, it's just the way they're treated. And you don't really get much say in what you do when you're under a UFC contract. They kind of tell you what to do, and if you push back, as we've seen in the past, you get let go. So
Listen, I say cut the bullshit. Pay the fighters; they
pay the
deserve to be
fighters.
paid. If you want, make your rosters smaller, but pay the fighters. The fighters that deserve to get paid should get paid. The fighters that don't deserve to get paid that much, they should go to Bellator or the PFL or something like that. But when a fighter like like a Francis Ngannou or like a John Jones wants to get paid, they should get paid. Money shouldn't be an issue, because like there are millions of fans like you and I that want to see these fights, and we're not seeing the fights because there's an argument between the management and the fighter, which is stupid.
Yeah, man. Look, I'm sure the managers are doing the best that they can to look out for their fighters. Um,
Not according to Dana White.
I mean, obviously, he's on the other side of the argument. Obviously,
Markel
he's going to say
Martin is
that.
apparently an asshole to Dana White. So
Yeah, shout out to Markel Martin for sticking it to the man.
yeah. So another fighter that not showed his dissatisfaction with the UFC, but kind of said that leaving. This is kind of a different situation, but Khabib Nurmagomedov basically said that it feels like he's released out of jail, not being an active fighter anymore. And that's not to say that the UFC did something wrong to him. That's just, I feel like that's more of like he doesn't have to train or go through the stress of preparing for a fight. But yeah, it kind of ties up into that situation as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm Khabib. We've seen the savage training that guy went through to be the best, to be the GOAT. He was always, either running or lifting weights or grappling or doing something to stay
Wrestling
physically active.
bears, making homeless people do push-ups.
Yeah, man, Khabib's hilarious. But now that he doesn't have to do this stuff anymore, and like he does that on his own time when he wants, we still see he's very active. He still trains with the guys down in AKA. He still trains with his Dagestani brothers like Islam, Zuba, and that whole team. So I don't know. I'm sure it's a relief, because he's doing it, like I said, on his own time now. Whenever he feels like it, there's nothing on the line anymore. There's no title. There's no career on the line for him. He's just training for the love of the sport, and he's sharing his knowledge with the rising stars in the sport.
Yeah, but Eric, let's talk about a promotion that no fighter really ever complains about, and that's the PFL. And we had Kayla Harrison and your boy Anthony Pettis fight this weekend. What did you think of the whole event, and what did you think of those two fights? Well, two fighters and their fights respectively.
Yeah, so I thought the PFL event was good overall. I really like how the PFL is just structured as an organization. I love how my favorite thing I think is that the referee has the camera on his glasses so that you can see the exact referee's view of what's happening in the fight. I like the stats that they have there. It's different from any organization. They have strike speed and like just different
Yeah,
metrics that other organizations don't.
yeah, they have the smart cage. It's
The
is what it's
smart
called.
cage. Yeah, I don't know why more people don't adopt that. I think that's a genius idea, and for them being one of the small organizations, I'm surprised that they're the ones that have
Yeah,
it.
I feel like you and I have spoken about this, but I feel like the UFC in particular wouldn't want to copy another organization, which is what I believe is why they haven't incorporated that into their system, because it's just innovative and something new, and with more technologies, it's going to be better
Yeah, but it's big tech.
analytics with the UFC.
You can't just
Huh?
ignore the technological advances in the
Okay,
industry.
so give me a plausible explanation why the UFC hasn't done something like that, because it makes life easier. Like you can't deny that.
Yeah, I have no idea why. But Kayla Harrison, another big win for that girl. First round stoppage. She really needed that to secure her spot in the PFL playoffs. Look, man, I don't think there's much competition for her in the PFL. She's just a beast. We've seen it time and time again, and she's getting better. Her striking, it's not there yet, but it's getting there. We're definitely seeing improvements. But ultimately, she went back to her judo roots. She secured that armbar at the end of the first round and got the submission. I mean, what else can you say about Kayla? She did amazing. And as far as Anthony Pettis, I mean, look, that's 0-2 in the PFL now. I think that he is out of the playoffs for sure now. Like, there's no way for him to get back in.
Yeah.
So it's 0-2. I think this was a 1-year contract he had with the PFL, so there's a high likelihood of him being dropped. So look, I feel bad for the guy. Look, he was a UFC champion. He had an amazing legacy. And look, I don't know what it is. Maybe the step up in competition from the younger fighters is there. Maybe he's deteriorating with age, but I don't know. He doesn't look as good. I don't know what's next for him, man.
Yeah, I'll start off with Pettis and I'll move on to Kayla, since you just brought up Pettis as your last point. But yeah, Pettis has now lost his last two in the PFL. I personally had this fight going to Pettis. I feel like he won the first and second round by a very slight margin. But Manifo, I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but he won the third round very decisively. He actually got two knockdowns in that round. So I don't know if you're looking at the right way to score the fight. I feel like Pettis should have won, and this is a controversial win for Manifo. But Yeah, it's been a tough journey for Pettis. He's probably I would expect him to get cut from the PFL. But he did look good. He does look fast, but it's definitely not the same Anthony Pettis that won the title in the UFC. But
I
I
feel like there's
think,
a lot of weight on his shoulder right now just because of where he came from, who he was, and to go into an organization to fight no-name fighters. Not to say they're bad, but they're not very well-known fighters. For him to lose to people that the average guy doesn't know, it just looks bad on someone like Pettis.
look, I think Pettis is, as I said, not the same fighter. He was coming from the UFC on a win streak, but he beat Donald Cerrone, who should be out of the UFC already, and he beat Alex Morono, which is an impressive win. I'll give him that. But Alex Morono is a bit smaller, so I don't know. I feel bad for Pettis, as you said, but age catches up to all of us. He's already in his late 30s. So I mean, I wish him the best, but definitely wasn't really impressed with his performance on Friday or Saturday, whatever the event was.
Yeah, I don't think this was a career-ending performance for him. Like you said, he didn't look bad. He definitely has a few more fights in him, without a doubt. Not top-tier fights, but he does have the fight in him. You know what I mean? So maybe he can do one more season of the PFL. Maybe he can sign to another organization and on a one-year deal, or a shorter deal, just to see how he feels. But I hope this isn't the last we see of Pettis.
Yeah, but moving on to Kayla Harrison. So she defeated Cindy Dandos. I don't know how you pronounce her name either. But she defeated Cindy via first round armbar. Cindy was another judoka. She's been practicing judo since she was 5 years old. She's been wrestling since 5. But as we mentioned in our last podcast, there's levels to this stuff, and Kayla Harrison is the best female judoka probably of all time, especially when it comes to the United States. So she was able to utilize her judo. She was able to get the first round submission, and she has no business being in the PFL. Like, yes, she's in the PFL. She's making money per fight, and she's probably going to win the playoffs again. She's going to win the $1 million plus everything that she's earning right now. But there's no real competition for her here.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad to see. So I want to see her finish this season, win the $1 million, and transition into the UFC. And I feel like Dana White is gonna compensate her eventually.
There's one problem though. So Kayla Harrison fights at 155 in her MMA career. The UFC female divisions, they only go up to 145. And that was one complaint that we heard from Cyborg. Because Cyborg, when she was with the UFC, she cut a lot of weight to get down to 145. And I don't know how many of you guys have seen, but there are those like UFC embedded clips of Cyborg just crying out of misery just because she can't cut that weight anymore. And she had to go through that for every single fight to defend her belt. Kayla Harrison said she wasn't at 145 since high school. So, look, I'm not saying she can't cut the weight, but I'm not sure if she'd be willing to cut the weight. You know what I mean? Because that's a commitment you have to make every time. And she doesn't really cut much weight now, but 10-pound difference is 10 pounds. You know what I mean? So it's going to be something very important to consider.
Listen, I think that Kayla Harrison wants to be known as the best female mixed martial artist to ever walk the face of the earth. So if that means to cut an extra few pounds, I feel like Kayla Harrison is going to make it happen. It just comes down to when that's going to be, because the fight with her and Amanda Nunes, everyone's talking about it. It has to happen. And it's going to eventually happen, hopefully, if the UFC doesn't mess it up and there's some issues with management and Dana White and all that bullshit, So hopefully that happens in the near future. But let me ask you, if that fight were to happen in a few months, who do you think would open up as the favorite?
Which fight?
Kayla Harrison and Amanda Nunes.
Who would open up as the favorite? It would have to be
Who would be the favorite in the fight?
It would have to be Nunes. I mean, just the resumes alone, the legacy. I mean, Kayla's a rising star.
Okay. Follow-up question. What would you think the odds for that fight would be?
2-1, 3-1. I don't know.
You think around 3-1?
Max 3-1, but maybe
max
2-1.
3-1.
Maybe because look, Kayla's not amazing, but the thing I would be concerned about would be if Kayla can keep it on the feet with Amanda Nunes, because Amanda looks, I don't know this for sure, she looks like she has a longer reach than Kayla does. So I don't know if Amanda Nunes can land her hands on Kayla the way she did on Cyborg and like everyone else. Like, I don't know how good
Kayla Harrison is gonna win, man. I don't know.
I hope so, bro. I love Kayla. I hope she wins, but I don't know, man. The striking.
Listen, I don't love Kayla. I know you just said you love Kayla. I don't love Kayla. I think her personality is kind of like annoying. Like when after the fight, they ask her questions, she just answers like she's the shit. Like
one word
I
answers. Yeah, I
I
don't
like
like that.
I get it, but like it's kind of cringe in a way, and like it's kind of like
She
I
only
don't really.
became like this recently. Like it's weird. Like I feel like she's slowly turning into that bitchy Ronda Rousey kind of
Yeah, just be
attitude.
humble, brother. Like,
Be humble.
why do you have to act like that? But that said, I still do think that she's gonna be able to beat Amanda Nunes, man. Like Amanda Nunes is not undefeated. She has, off the top of my head, I believe 4 losses in her career. So that says something. And Kayla Harrison, we don't know her for losing. She always wins. She always freaking wins. Wherever she goes, she wins. So I don't know. I'd love to see her come to the UFC, make that UFC money, maybe more than Ronda Rousey's ever made. And I feel like she could beat everybody in the UFC. Maybe maybe aside, she could beat everybody in the UFC. And it's an iffy one with Amanda Nunes. So making the transition is not going to be too bad for her. I'm sure about that.
Look, I'm sure it's gonna be a while until we see that fight because even when she does sign to the UFC, I'm sure she's gonna have to have several fights before they even talk about signing her and Amanda to fight each other.
They're probably
So
gonna
we're
give her.
looking.
They're probably gonna. This is my prediction. This is what I think is gonna happen if she were to come to UFC. I feel like they're gonna give her one fight. Kayla Harris to smash this guy, and then they're just gonna give her to the
It has to
lioness.
be someone good though, like someone like with a name
Anybody.
similar to like Holly Holm. No, it has to be a big name.
She's
They
gonna
can't. She
fucking
can't just be
destroy
like
Holly
a.
Holm.
She can't be like a Juliana Pena and expect to fight for
She's
the
gonna
title. You know what I mean?
ragdoll Holly Holm. She's gonna break her jaw like a glass jaw bomb, my brother. You know.
I don't know, man. There's a very bright future in store for Kayla.
Imagine Holly Holm is able to beat both Ronda Rousey and Kayla Harrison.
She has the judo kryptonite, huh?
She's gonna be like the judo stopper.
That should be her new nickname if that's the
But
case.
she's not gonna be Kayla Harrison gonna destroy this
Yeah.
girl.
All right. So moving on to the next thing. So we have the Connor versus Poirier trilogy coming up. We'll give our in-depth thoughts on that on our podcast next week. But some goats are sharing their opinion on this fight. We have Khabib coming out and saying that he thinks Connor will win via KO in the first round. But if it goes past that, then Dustin definitely has it in the bag. And then we have the other goat, GSP. He's saying that Connor is he's one to come back into rematches looking good, like he's smart, he makes the adjustments he needs to make, and he's predicting a round 2 KO for Conor McGregor. What do you think about that?
All right, fuck those guys. Let's see what you think. Your opinion matters more to me. So what do you think is gonna happen?
Well, you know I favor Conor. Obviously in this trilogy coming in, we've spoken about it. I'm not necessarily on the Conor fan bandwagon anymore,
You're
but
a fanboy.
I do think that Conor has what it takes to beat Dustin. I don't think Conor brought the respect in the rematch that he should have brought to fight Dustin. That being said, look, the only way Conor can win, in my opinion, is via KO. Because I think if it goes to decision, Dustin definitely has the heart to get his hand raised from there. Look, Conor's gonna have to win via KO in round 1 or round 2. So I think if Conor wins, one of the goats have to be right. You know what I mean? If it goes past the second round, I don't know if Conor has what it takes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he came out and said that his cardio isn't an issue. There was only one fight where he gassed out, and that was with Nate. But I don't know. It's the few fights where he has gone
I don't
into the
know.
later rounds, you've
I don't know
definitely
how true
seen
that
him
is.
slow the pace down.
Even with even with Chad Mendes, I feel like he gassed out. He won the fight, but he looked like he
Exhausted.
wasn't gonna. Yeah, he was exhausted.
Yeah. I don't know. Look, Dustin can surprise me this time, just like he did last time. I'm rooting for Conor. I think Conor wins via KO. I hope Conor wins via KO because I feel like if he doesn't win this fight, it's going to be the end of his career. As far as the hype wise, I mean, his career resume is not looking good as of late. So he needs this win, man.
Yeah, as we're getting closer to the fight, I kind of am favoring Connor a little bit more because I hear all these goats, say all this stuff. But I'm gonna stick with my boy Dustin Poirier. I think he gets the job done again, and there's nothing for me there's no evidence for me to believe otherwise. I'd love for Connor to win. I feel like when Connor's Connor, then the sport is more entertaining and more fun. And but I feel like Dustin Poirier is actually like an active fighter. He doesn't have as much fame, as much money, as much anything. He's more hungry, I feel like, and I feel like Conor McGregor is just not the same anymore. And you've said that as well.
Yeah, I mean, one big thing that's different about the camp this time around, Connor said he's not doing any media, which I'm actually
Yeah.
personally very, very happy that he did. I always say it all the time, when fighters get distracted with media and other opportunities and other outlets, that distracts them from the gym time and from getting their head in the right place for camp. So I'm very, very glad that Conor made that decision. I hope we get at least, one
But
interview like Ariel used to do with Conor
yeah,
before a big fight. But look, man, Conor, I like this change that he made. I think it's definitely the right move, and hopefully it's going to yield good results.
yeah, but the thing about Connor is that he's media king, like he always thrived like off the media, and like him not talking to media this time around, like it kind of it kind of brings up questions, like
Look, I'm sure
who
he's
does Connor know who Connor is, or like did he forget that this is how he came up and that's this how he got to where he is,
Look, I'm sure he's
so
going to
like
do the press conference for the UFC, the week of, because it is a pay per view, and almost always they do that
mhm.
press conference. I think he's just not allowing any media, in his camps, like cameras and all that stuff, which I think is the bigger distraction. During fight week, it's already when you're kind of slowing down, letting your body
Mhm.
rest before the big day. But so I feel like that's not as big of a distraction. But when you have cameras in your gym all day long, when you have people interviewing you, asking the same questions over and over again, like that kind of
Yeah.
drains you out.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Poirier. As you said, we're gonna talk about this in depth next week. With the whole podcast is gonna be on Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, along with some other fights on UFC 264. So my opinion might change then, but right now I'm going with my boy from Louisiana, the hot sauce man himself, Dustin Poirier.
I'm going with Conor, man, and let's just see how this shit plays out because I'm excited.
Yeah, so on that same card, there's actually another fight that was just announced today. Sean O'Malley will be taking on newcomer Kris Moutinho, who was 9-4 in his MMA career. Chris is going to be replacing Louis Smolka at UFC 264. So I feel like this is going to be an easy night for Sean O'Malley. He lucked out once again, or the UFC is just making him or just feeding him easy fights as usual. I would have loved to see the Ricky Simone fight, which was in consideration, but obviously that's not happening because Ricky Simone said that he can't make weight. But I feel like this is going to be an easy night for Sean O'Malley. Chris doesn't really have much experience. He has some regional promotional fights in the CFFC and the CES, but Sean O'Malley, he's good, and I don't think Chris is going to have any advantage in the fight.
Yeah, look, Sean O'Malley, he's a star. He's a rising star, but he's one that's getting criticized heavily for the level of competition he's facing. Like you mentioned, I don't know if that's a fault of him and his management or a fault of the UFC. I don't know like who's kind of giving to that padded record idea, but look, a lot of people were hoping Sean O'Malley was going to get a ranked opponent going into this fight before it was announced. Obviously we didn't get that. With this fight falling out, they were hoping that the replacement might be someone ranked. I tweeted out this morning prior to seeing this news that maybe Marab Devalashvili, he might be a good matchup for that fight. He's ranked. I don't know what his training situation is right now if he can make weight, but I think that Marab fight would have been a good matchup for Sean O'Malley. Look, man,
You think that would have favored Sean O'Malley?
I just think it would have been a good fight to make in terms of the UFC. Now you're taking a newcomer, someone making his UFC debut, and you're feeding him to a star, and you're basically giving people even more reason to hate Sean O'Malley if they didn't already hate him. You know what I mean? I would have much rather him fight someone that's had some fights, some experience in the UFC. Because look, we all want to know the answer to the same question. Where is Sean O'Malley with his skills? Like, is he at the top where everyone thinks he is, or is he just someone that's winning because he's fighting a bunch of nobodies? You know what
I
I mean?
think I think that was already answered when he lost to Chito Vera.
Nah,
So
I don't take. I mean, look, I'm not saying he didn't lose that fight. He did lose
he
that
did lose.
fight,
Of
but
course, he lost that fight.
that was
What do you,
he
Sean
lost that
O'Malley?
fight due to an injury. He didn't. Cheeto didn't win that fight. Sean just lost that fight. That's how I see it.
Listen, there are a lot of UFC fighters and a lot of MMA fighters altogether that go through some insane injuries in the fight, as you saw with what's his name, Thiago Santos, for example,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
continue to fight. Like, oh yeah, like I'm injured, so like I lost the fight. Like
Look, if Cheeto didn't fight like a
he
couple
doesn't
of
have the
weeks
heart,
ago,
then like he doesn't have the heart. He's not a champion. He's
look, if Cheeto
Chito Vera
wasn't
destroyed him.
Cheeto Vera just had a fight a couple of weeks ago, 1 week or 2 weeks ago, and he looked great. I gotta say, he impressed me for sure. If the
Yeah.
fight wasn't so close and if he didn't take such a beating as he did, I would have said, hell yeah, let's make this rematch ASAP and get Cheeto and O'Malley back in there. But realistically, I don't think it's a good idea for Cheeto Vera just because he just needs some time to recover. I think from that war.
Yeah, I think that Ricky Simone would have been the perfect fight for him. That would have given us the answer. I mean, it would have given you the answer. I already know the answer. But I feel like if he fought Marab, then it would have been a long night for him. Merab is just too good with the wrestling. He's too powerful for
Yeah,
Sean
but there's a
O'Malley.
big
Sean
size
O'Malley's like,
difference.
yeah, Sean O'Malley,
Very
yeah,
big.
yeah. Like you're a judo practitioner, so you know this, right? So when there's a taller fighter and there's a short fighter, and the shorter fighter is primarily a wrestler, it's gonna be easier for him to take down the longer, skinnier fighter. So you know that kind of favors Merab, and with the strength advantage, I feel like with him being Georgian, that's a big factor.
That is a
So
big factor. These Georgians are
I,
beast.
so I feel like that fight, Sean O'Malley, I thought would have had a very slim chance to win, but with Ricky Simone, that would have answered a lot of questions
Absolutely.
for many fans.
Yeah, I don't know again who dropped the ball on this. I don't know if it was O'Malley's management team that pushed for this or the UFC brass, but I think a lot of people are upset with the replacement. But look, I'm excited that the Sugar Show is still going to be on, that they didn't cancel it completely. I know Sean O'Malley said that he wanted to stay on that card. Obviously, it's the Conor McGregor card. He's going to get a hell of a lot of pay-per-view points, a big ass payday. But
Yeah, but this dude Kris Moutinho lucked out. He's on his first UFC fight, fighting on a Conor McGregor card, and the last minute replacement for Sean O'Malley. Like this stage can't get any bigger. And I was actually writing on our Instagram earlier today. Imagine if he wins. Like
that
how
would be
crazy that.
insane.
Imagine if this little he looks like a child. This kid. Like imagine if he beats Sean O'Malley. That'll be insane. Beating such a big star on a card where the biggest star in MMA history is fighting. It just would be crazy for his career. And
I'll tell you one thing. If that happens, Sean O'Malley's career just goes all the way down. All
yeah,
the way down.
I would have to agree with you there, buddy.
All right, man. Let's hit one last bit of news before we wrap up this episode. I'm actually not sure if you heard about this, but BKFC, the bare knuckle boxing champion, Hector Lombard calls out Jake Paul. Did you hear about this?
I did hear about this. Yes.
So I'm gonna read out what he posted on Instagram. So former Bellator middleweight champ Hector Lombard and current BKFC champ, he posted to Instagram calling out Jake Paul. He says, "We do it in bare knuckle boxing or we do it in a boxing match." Jake Paul, question mark, question mark. I know you want to make it happen. The question is, where do you want to do it? I know you want to do it in a boxing match, but do you have the balls to do it at bare knuckle FC? Where would you guys like to see it? Everyone tag Jake Paul. And then he just goes on and tags a bunch of organizations and fighters. And Jake Paul, he tagged in there. Logan Paul, Triller, ESPN, BT Sports. Like he
Did
kind of went at it.
did Jake Paul respond yet or no?
I haven't heard anything yet. I think the smart move for Jake Paul here would be to shut the hell up and go home. Look,
Yeah.
man, Hector Lombard, he's not someone that's been retired. He's someone that's been actively fighting.
He's old as
And
fuck.
he's old as fuck, but that is someone I would be okay with Jake Paul fighting because
He
look,
used
this
to
is a
be.
current champion. This is a former champion. This is someone that is active. This is a boxer. So this checks off all the points.
Well, Hector Lombard is not a boxer. He's a mixed martial artist.
Right, but he's in bare knuckle now, so he's been training boxing, is what I mean.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, yeah, it's gonna definitely be a big test for Jake Paul. I don't see Jake Paul winning that fight, but you know, I'm gonna base my opinion on that fight if it were to come to fruition, on the fight with Tyron Woodley and Logan Paul. If Logan Paul is able to have some success, I'll have some confidence in Jake Paul and be like, yo, these guys are the real deal. But until then, I think Hector Lombard will destroy him.
I really hope they sign that fight. I don't know. It looked like it got a lot of attention. I didn't end up seeing how viral it actually went. But bro, please, whoever's in charge of both those guys, make that fight happen. Jake Paul needs to get his teeth smashed by a real bare knuckle boxer. Even if it's in regular boxing, I'm excited for that fight because I think Hector Lombard will finally put the lights out on Jake Paul.
Yeah, I know you said that this was gonna be the last piece of news, but I'll give the audience one more piece of MMA news.
Let's do it.
Before we wrap up. So you know your boy Louis Pena, he was arrested last week on robbery by sudden snatching, battery, and criminal mischief. He apparently punched his girl in the face and broke her iPhone, and he was just released on bail for $8,000, and he made a statement on social media basically saying that he's free and the truth will be known soon. So what do you think of this whole thing? Do you think he's at fault, or is this just something that his girlfriend made up?
Look, I don't know what really happened, but if he did lay his hands on his girl, I think any professional fighter that is involved in any kind of domestic violence disputes, they should go to jail right away. Look, these guys are trained athletes, they're trained fighters, they know exactly how to hit you, where to hit you. Like, it's not only someone else, but specifically a female, which is generally smaller than them and can't defend themselves. Like, again, I don't know what happened in this situation, so I can't say. But if Pena did hit his girl, angry or not, like that, I feel like that's just a big fuck up on him, and he has to make that right.
Yeah, and I know this might sound a little fucked up, but he doesn't really look like the most stable type of person, and there's also a tweet that people are like looking into. Basically what he said a few months ago was that fighters get hit in the head a lot and you don't know how that affects them in the future, something along those lines. So I mean, like, I never really thought of Pena like that, especially like,
Same here.
he came out and was saying how he found like his brother or sister that he hasn't seen since birth. So he portrayed like a really nice guy, and seeing something like this, like, I mean, I could see it, like, doesn't really surprise me that much.
I
But
was a bit surprised,
let's
honestly, because I never necessarily took him as an aggressive person outside
yeah.
of the ring. Like
I,
he seemed relatively like friendly and everything. But look, his nickname is Violent Bob Ross. You know, his hair is the same as Bob Ross's hair. But I don't know, maybe the violent part has a little more meaning to it than we all thought.
Yeah, I mean, I hope this is not true. I would love to see him continue his career, not no, fuck his career. I'd like to see him not be guilty. I hope he didn't do that. But if he did, I agree with you. They should be charged right away, and not just fighters. I feel like anybody that touches their girlfriend, if they're rightly accused of it, I should feel like should go to jail and
No,
serve
rightly
serve
convicted of it, not accused, buddy.
rightly convicted. I'm sorry, I'm not a lawyer. I'm in medicine, buddy.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for another round of Inside the Clinch. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and comment on social medias. On Instagram, we are Inside the Clinch MMA. On Twitter, we are ITC MMA Podcast. And on Facebook and YouTube, we are Inside the Clinch MMA Podcast. Thank you, guys. Catch you next week.